I'm in the middle of working on this 1957 Bolens Ride-O-Matic garden tractor, and I haven't seen it spark yet. I have the engine removed because you can't get to the points when the engine's on the tractor. So I'm going to take out the points and clean them. I want to push down on this file harder, so I'm going to get a chunk of steel or something to put on the table. I remove enough material to get rid of any pits in the surface and stop there. Don't want to take off too much material. I also like to give them a rounded face. I do that for both the fixed and the movable point. When they're installed and the points are closed, they should contact somewhere near the center of the point surface. If they're touching at the edge, something's bent. I can usually fix that by squaring up the platform that the fixed point's mounted to. Now I'm rotating the engine, looking for the high spot on the cam. Position the crankshaft so the points are at the maximum open position. That's where the point gap should be set to 20 thousandths. You're done when you can feel a slight drag on the feeler gauge. If you see the points deflect or move when the feeler gauge is inserted, that's too tight. I should be done in here so I can put the cover back on. The kill button's missing. The spring is in there, so you could kill it by pushing something in the hole. I noticed the factory kill button on the steering column's not hooked up. There's no wire coming from the magneto on this engine. So currently pushing something in that hole is the only way to kill the engine. I'm going to add a wire here and connect it to the kill switch later. The wire grommet there only has room for one wire. I'm not going to modify it. I'll slide it up the wire so it's out of the way and bring both wires out of the doghouse hole. Later, if I have to get into the magneto for some reason, I can move this wire to the magneto and put the grommet back the way it's supposed to be. I modified this ring terminal so it's a hook terminal. Now I can get it on without removing the screw. Somebody's in the driveway. I know who that is, so I'll finish this up real quick. That's my kill switch wire. I won't cut it to lengths till I get the engine in position. I have the engine held down to the frame with C-clamps so it don't bounce around on the table there. I don't see a spark yet. I got this on the bench, and I'm just going to start looking for problems. This wire can't be grounded, but you can see the inside of the wire in that plastic case there. Wouldn't think that would bother it. All that insulation down there looks pretty good. Time to look inside. Looks like some wire strands are loose there. I don't see any very close to touching ground. The points look okay. I'll probably run a file between those while they're still mounted on the engine. I'm going to leave this kill wire off of here just to make sure it's not causing problems. Looks like there's quite a few loose strands on here. In fact, only about half of them are crimped in the connector. So that doesn't look like a great connection. I think I'll replace that. When I put the new connector on, I cut the wire just a little bit shorter. So I'm going to bend this support up a little bit to make sure the wire's not on a bind. I'm going to run a file in here to make sure the points are clean. And I have this dollar bill here. I think the theory on using a dollar bill is it's paper, but it won't leave any lint behind. Now I'm going to rotate the crank until the points are open as far as they'll get and check the point gap. I think the gap's a little big now. I'm going to readjust it. I don't have the points cover back on yet, but I want to see if it'll spark. So I got the engine C-clamped to the frame here. I closed the garage door because it's a sunny afternoon, and I'm going to see if there's a spark yet. Well, that looks good there. Well, I have my kill wire installed and the cover back on. I C-clamped the engine to the frame again, and I'm going to make sure it still sparks. I didn't see any sparking going on. Okay, I took this cover off and my kill wire is still connected. There you go. The cover's grounding it out somewhere. First, I see the foot on this cover's been mashed a little bit, so that would get it closer to the screw. And then I added a terminal under that screw, so the screw stands out a little bit more now. The button's missing, and there's a gap behind that spring there. You wouldn't want to use the button anyways on this tractor, the way the points are back under the drive pulleys. So I'm going to take that spring out of there. So now I'm going to bend this foot down a little bit so it's closer to where it should be. Okay, I'm going to bolt it on there and try it. I want to put this belt in position so I can get the engine lined up. But first I want to get the grease off the belt here. This hard to get to bolt was missing when I took the engine off. So I found the right size bolt. I'm going to start with that one. Still trying to find that threaded hole I can't see. I'm looking at this reverse disc here. I want the V-shaped fiber disc lined up with the V-groove in the pulley. That's where I tighten the bolts down. For this last bolt, I have a socket on a long extension with the U-joint just above the socket. This belt guide goes on over here, but I want to hear the engine running first. I'm going to take this belt off so nothing's around the pulley. I'm going to connect the throttle cable, so I got to put the Z-bend in the hole first. And then fish around trying to get this screw and nut on there without dropping stuff. I have the throttle lever down against the stop. I'm going to loosen the screw here. I want to be able to poke the throttle on the carburetor back to idle position and see it relax a little bit. I just don't want the linkage to be putting force on the idle stop screw. When the engine's running and the throttle lever's down against the stop, the governor should be pushing the linkage to the idle stop screw. I want to see if this fuel pump works. I have this old piece of fuel line. It almost fits already. I think this piece came from this tractor, but I had a big inline filter and I cut the line to remove the tank. I'm going to reverse this hose clamp so it tucks out of the way better. This fuel pump has the external actuator on it. You should be able to pump fuel with that. The carb's already clean, and the fuel tank's clean. So I'm going to put some clean fuel through the fuel pump. I have some rags in place, and I'm going to turn on this valve here. I don't see any fuel leaks. I'm going to start pumping on this thing with my thumb. Yeah, I think I should be getting something by now. I'm going to pressurize the fuel tank and force some fuel through there. Well, that got it moving. And it's just running right through there. This pump handle should make it squirt, but it just makes it stop for a bit. I don't think this pump is working. Okay, so what do I need a pump for if it's going to keep running anyways? The carb's below the bottom of the tank on this tractor. I want to look at an original 57 Bolens and see how the fuel systems run on that. There's one out here on this trailer load of tractors. I'm getting ready to go to a garden tractor show. This 57 Bolens here has the original K160 engine. It looks like it never had a fuel pump. It's got the block-off plate there with the original paint on it. The fuel line routing's quite simple on this one. The line from the valve's pointing to the right side and wraps around the air cleaner and into an elbow on the carburetor. On this one, I'm just going to bypass the fuel pump for now. I'll take it off later and put a block-off plate on there. I'm going to put an elbow on here and have it facing downward. Then my fuel line will come in from under the carburetor. This piece of fuel line's too short to use, but I'm going to reuse the hose clamps. I'm going to leave the shutoff valve so the fuel line points forward, because I don't want to try to turn it 3/4 of a turn and have it get too tight on me. And you want to try to use the natural curve in the hose to your advantage. Put it on here so the curve points down first, and then twist it so it curves back up. This line's a little bigger than the other one, so I got to open up the clamp a little bit. That's a tight fit on there. I don't want to break that plastic elbow. The hose clamp's above the end of the nipple, so that's far enough. I was thinking on trying to start this, but I decided not to when I saw the dipstick. I didn't know it was all bent up like that. It looks like the right length. It might be the right one for this engine. So I'm going to straighten that out. I also don't have a way to kill it right now. I'd have to choke it or something. I don't have the kill switch hooked up yet. Well, that's as far as I'm going this time. So next time I'll finish a few things up and see if I can get it started. Alright, that's it.